Hello, and welcome to another episode of Discovering Disruptions in Tech. I am your host, Howard Holton, and I'm here this week with Shinji Kim from SelectStar. Hey, Shinji, how's it going?
Hey, Howard, thanks for having me here. Great to be here.
Yeah. This week, we're going to discuss data catalogs. We're going to demystify them. We're going to break it down a little bit. We're going to talk about why they're important, why they're critical, and some of the changes happening in the market. Well, welcome, Shinji. So let's dig into data catalogs a little bit. I one of the problems that I find in the data space is much like security, there's an awful lot of pieces and parts necessary to build a kind of fully cohesive, fully managed, fully complete, I guess, comprehensive data estate and data management estate. So let's talk about data catalogs for a minute. Where did data catalogs fit in? Kind of what's the history? How did we get here?
Sure. I would say data catalog has a lot of meanings to different companies and different teams. But overall, I would say this has all really started because databases by default does keep track of what files and how the files are contained within its systems. So that is in most of the system tables like information schema, where it keeps track of tables, columns, schemas, and in databases that runs underneath. Data catalogs, a lot of the data catalogs that everyone that talks about and knows of is really designed to put together all of those information schema and the inventory of data systems in one place so that you can keep track of where things are and have a good inventory system of understanding what the data is. And this, I would say, has been more of an uprising trend because more companies are collecting more data. Data doesn't always come and get stored in just one place. It is stored in many different places. Many companies have 2, 5, maybe 10 or more different types of data systems that they work with. So it is important for enterprises to ensure that there is a handle on what exists inside the company. But fast forward, today's data catalogs, including SelectStar, I would say is keeping track of not just the inventory, but also a lot more than just what the system or your data ecosystem contains. For example, like there is a lot of tracking and also augmenting the metadata of beyond just the information schema, like query logs or user information that gets also tracked so that you can see what is actually being utilized, how each data sets are connected to one another, and how they are being currently consumed inside the organization. And I think this is really giving a new positioning and understanding of data beyond just what do we have, but more for how is the data being actually used. And if you were to follow that trace or to manage it so that you can either put a good retention on it or delete it or giving the right access to the right people, that's really the core function that data catalogs will play, because it works as like the thin layer of like your backbone of data management.
So that exposes a whole bunch of challenges within your data estate that data catalogs help to resolve, right? So you've got some obvious linkage to governance, you've got obvious linkage to lineage, you've got obvious linkage to access, and you kind of have the biggest one for me, which is helping to identify where the record of authority exists for a data type. Right? Because we duplicate data within an organization. It's not just that we have multiple data sources. It's not just that we have multiple data repositories. It's that we have the same data repeated over and over and over again. And one of the hardest things is, cool, where is the record of authority for that data? Right? Where is it authoritative? Not where is it, the 55th copy of that particular data. And so it seems like data catalogs kind of help reconcile this and provide that level of cohesion that you need when managing your distributed disparate, varied data estate.
Yeah, for sure. This part around tracing, data transformation, and replication is one of the parts that data lineage really helps, which is now a part of a lot of modern data catalogs. Data lineage really provides the aspect of where each field or the table got replicated into, because when data gets replicated, it happens in the form of some SQL query that runs on top of the data, selecting the specific field with some filters and maybe some modification to create a whole new data set. In order for those other new data sets to be up to date and from the sources, this is a long-running jobs of SQL queries that makes up of that table. Understanding which queries those are and what those queries access is the core of how a lot of automated data lineage gets formed. And I would say this is a very important part, because one is understanding the authoritative source of truth, like where did this number actually get come from, and how was this, were there any transformation or calculation that has happened. But also for you to understand what is the impact if we change this source, or if I need to reduce or remove this particular type of information out of the system, or just deleting some records. You would want to trace through where that data went to ensure that you have a full understanding of that impact of the data. So I think data lineage is a very important capability of data catalog inventory side of cataloging.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, right? I think probably the most important thing in a robust, managed, kind of controlled data estate is data lineage. It's far too complicated managing data today. It's far too complicated managing these projects and building these projects. And without good data lineage, I don't know that you're going to be able to be successful in scaling your, kind of data engineering and data science practices.
Yeah. Some of our customers push this data lineage information upstream to their production engineers or their overall software engineers, because many times they may see the changes happening on that upstream of where the data is being collected or data gets generated. Because on the downstream perspective, it may break a dashboard. More, importantly, it may break your pricing engine. It may break your recommendation engine that can really impact a company's revenue and customer experience. And this is the part where data lineage can really help, because it will contain the dependency information of everything that could break, and also the impact of who may get impacted based on the breakage. So I think that's a really important piece of capability that a lot of modern companies need to have today, especially if you have lots of data that you're building on top of.
So let's talk a little bit about some of the recent acquisitions and changes in the market, especially those around Iceberg. Like, how should companies kind of look at that and think about that? And what should they consider within these changes?
Sure. I think a lot of the movements that's happening with Iceberg, and given that the whole benefit of adopting Iceberg comes from efficiency on querying on top of files, there are a few aspects on this. One is being able to have an open format that you can run queries from really anywhere. So you don't have to necessarily copy or move the data into your data warehouse systems to make this work. I think that is a big gain for a lot of customers. At the same time, you do need a good catalog. And here, when I call it a catalog, this is what I would call more technical catalog that keeps track of what files get accessed when query runs. This is the types of catalog that AWS provides as Glue catalog. So Snowflake now provides as Polaris catalog, and Databricks are going to be providing through Tabular and their Delta table catalogs. So to me, the Iceberg format is just more of a file format that you support, and it is a more of a gateway to be, or more of an area for the compute engines to understand how to access those files. It's different from the data catalogs that we're talking about, like what SelectStar does. But it is a part of the catalog integration that we add in, because that will just add to the ecosystem that you already have. So even if you, so this is just more of an in addition to the databases that you use today, whether that's Snowflake or Redshift or BigQuery or Databricks. It will give you, in addition to that, more of that inventory of what types of raw data exist on your upstream of your data flow. So to me, that is having more of that visibility and transparency to be added in is all very helpful for a lot of the data teams and everyone that is building and consuming on top of data. This, I would say, also is a very interesting aspect to learn, because it is impactful for the machine learning and data science work. A lot of the times, machine learning, data science work, and when you're building models, it's not really just the tables and relational formats. That's what I was looking for. Relational formats that you use on top of. You use a lot of overall file formats and the raw data. And when you are looking for the right fields to use, which dimensions or measures are the right ones, and if you want to continue feeding into those models, having the access to all the raw files and the understanding where to find them is really helpful. So this is like another, like I would say, big unlock for the industry in that perspective.
So what's some advice that you would give to customers, right? When they're looking at what should the next kind of step be, what should the next kind of move be when you're looking at data catalogs? Like where should I start? What should I look for? What are the kind of outcomes that I'm looking for? What is some of that advice that you would give to customers as a kind of an action item?
Yeah. So most of the time, we recommend looking into data catalogs when your data team is growing and is at a point where your tribal knowledge of data is something that is going to start being more important to the rest of the company. And many times, companies at size of 500 employees or more, they already have this pain. Because data is already being utilized so many places inside the company. It's really about having everyone to be on the same page and sharing that tribal knowledge and having that knowledge to be systemized within a tool so that everyone can access and also get the same amount of understanding. In regards to this, the part that is really important to have are when one is evaluating data catalogs is, I would say, how easy it is to get it up to speed, because in general, a lot of companies fall into this pitfall of setting up a data catalog, which may take months and years, and you end up losing track of the actual goal you had in mind in the beginning. Getting people to have that better understanding about the data. So this is really where the automation comes in, being able to actually discover the data as data models change or new data gets added is really important. Having an automated data lineage so that any new data sets that gets added are connected to existing data pipelines, or having new analysis that are being generated, understanding how that is connected to existing data sets. Those are all very important. And having the understanding the usage tracking, so that it's not just, because many times you end up having, let's say, 50 different customer table, understanding what is the core tables that are verified and usable and is something that is recommended to everyone. It is a part of the process that a lot of data teams fall into while they are setting up the data catalog. But being able to, if you can leverage more automation around this usage, how the entity relationship, the data lineage, all of that together, you can set up data catalogs much quickly. This is a part that we see as a big gain at SelectStar for a lot of our customers, because before they came to SelectStar, they ended up spending 6 months, 9 months trying to get their data catalog up and running and fully set up for the rest. And we see, getting it set up and having it to be really complete so that you can share it with everyone else is also very important. And then another part that I would also recommend is really the ease of use. Many of the times data catalogs also get adopted by data governance teams that care more about the privacy of the data, compliance of the data, or they think that the data needs to be only accessed at request. But today's data governance is starting to shift more towards ensuring that everyone is using the correct data and the right data. The very sensitive information or the things that you want to mark as a PII or any private information, you need to mark that, and that is also very important. But at the end of the day, you want that your business wants to move fast, and your business wants a lot of people on the business side wants to leverage the data. So how can you provide that environment for the rest of the company? So earlier I talked about automation, so setting it up so that it's complete and have a lot of those already automated is important. But then the other side of the coin is to ensure that your team is being actually onboarded and they like using the tool day to day. So a lot of the times, this user experience, people can get easily overwhelmed, or they may not find what they're looking for. So this is a part of the user experience and how companies actually, how data teams actually enable their users. But tooling can definitely help a lot on making that happen for them as well. So I would say those are kind of like the two main things that we recommend our customers to think about. But at the end of the day, like we talked about a little bit of this iceberg and the catalog around this. I would say this is coming from more understanding and then putting the right picture end to end, from all the way to the analysis, but going also up to the source. The core of like data catalog that we're talking about is really based on enabling companies to leverage their data much better. And I would say this is starting to get more important, because it's not just the data analyst and the business analyst that uses data. It's increasingly becoming more of the machine learning models and the Gen AI models that are consuming and building their system internally based on the company data that it has. So data catalog can really provide that path of what's the right data to use, and how to utilize, what's the best way to use that, which are the right joins to make, and what's the provenance of data, all of that information as more of a map for these machine learning models and Gen AI models to leverage.
So
So
let's
I
look
would say
into
that
that.
could be another reason why companies may consider adopting data catalog.
Sure. So let's dig into that as kind of our final question here. So for companies that are considering a push into Gen AI, which is probably most of them, how can they best leverage data catalogs to help feed into their kind of Gen AI workflows and builds and creation to get the best results possible?
Yeah. So where I'm coming from is that most of the enterprise data today is quite messy. So you cannot just put Gen AI right away because it's garbage in and garbage out. In order for you to provide a better quality coming out from Gen AI, and if using your main data warehouse and analytical source is part of the information that you want to leverage, data catalog can provide that option because the data catalog underneath can compute and understand which data sets are the worthwhile data for the Gen AI to access. So the way that we do this at SelectStar is by putting a score of every single data asset within our catalog. This score is based on how often the data is being accessed by how many unique users, so that we when you're running a simple search like customers, we know the best fields that are related to that customer based on its semantics, as well as based on where this is being utilized. If you also can utilize the lineage information, you can look at which actual important dashboards this is feeding and have that to be a higher ranked data sets for the Gen AI to access. So this is where it's coming from. A lot of another way to do this through data catalogs is that if customers are actually tagging their data, with whether that is called gold, silver, bronze, and those tagged data assets should be the only ones that Gen AI should access. Or if you were to put like certified or core, a lot of these semantic based on what this data status is and where this could be used is another way for the ML models and Gen AI models to be able to access onto this. So we usually use this embedding that we also share with our clients so that they can actually leverage their own Gen AI models on top of their data. And so I would say this may not be supported by every single data catalogs in the world, also because of the data catalog as a term, like there could be a very just technical catalog, or there is a more of this modern data catalogs. But the part that we see as this is a role that data catalog should play more, because data catalogs does contain this holistic understanding of the metadata, and also can improve that metadata with the knowledge of prior history of how the data has been accessed or referred to in the company's history.
So I think that leads me to another question. One of the things that I find Gen AI is rather good at is actually helping and informing kind of data quality and doing some of being a nice automation assistant in managing data. So I guess two-part question. One, do you see that as a like valid or common use of Gen AI? And then if we look at it from the other side, how does that help with what can be a rather large task in managing kind of the data catalog, all the data catalog components? Do you see Gen AI as a viable assistant in automating some of the work that goes into tracking lineage and adding resources and defining the data that goes into the data catalog?
Sorry. So first question was about where or how the Gen AI is being utilized on the classification side
Correct.
of data. Okay. And then the second question was about
using Gen AI to help document, to help import, to help define some of the pieces that would otherwise be manual in doing data cataloging. Or do you have another way to do that?
Got it. So yes, how much Gen AI do we use within the catalog, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a great summary. Yeah.
Yeah, I think there are a lot of things that Gen AI is really good at versus it may not be so good at today. So for us, we see Gen AI performing great at being able to understand the human language and the semantics of that comes from different words and the natural language that we use. And because of that, yes, data classification can be a good example. But today, I would say, given the volume of data that we deal with and the more of this like open-endedness of language understanding, the data classification isn't always the best use of Gen AI, mainly because it just has a lot. It just takes a lot longer and is a lot more expensive to do classification, especially for something like PII, PHI detections. These are things that can be done like 100 times faster and cheaper if you were to do it just primarily on the metadata. But if you want to ensure that you want 100% accuracy and every like your sampling of the data needs to be looked into, then you could use certainly Gen AI models to do so, or specific machine learning models built for classification is where I would probably go for if what I really need is classification of data. And this leads to where the Gen AI, can I use Gen AI for building a data lineage or building a data catalog? In a way, this is like another part of where you want to have a more predictable outcome. You want 0 and 1s instead of many different flavors of what could exist in your inventory. So this is something that I would say we don't necessarily use Gen AI for. Cataloging and parsing through SQL queries and things like that is something that helps and is something that we use, like our engineering team uses to augment their code. At the same time, if we were to just rely on Gen AI to give us, let's say, the lineage or the like where like what the popularity is of a table, what we have seen with Gen AI so far is that we get different answer every single time. Or it's sometimes like or 2 different answers or 3 different answers. So in order for this to be more accurate and predictable, I would say that today is not like the right time for Gen AI to be used in that regards. It is important for data catalogs to bring out this information and contain the accurate information in the metadata perspective, and have Gen AI to run on top of that curated metadata and the scores that has run. And Gen AI can give a lot more should I say creativity on top of this that understands the semantics and help the data product curation on top of it. Another part that I actually didn't necessarily mention about Gen AI, but is really helpful to use is document generation. So we now basically automatically fill in table column descriptions, high-level documentation of what the tags should be, how they should be described, a lot of that through Gen AI. And our descriptions and these documentations actually is a lot more accurate and is more descriptive because it's generated with our embedding of the lineage information, the popularity information, all the previous SQL queries that have ran, all the dashboards that were built on top of. So a lot of this information combined together to feed the LLM, to feed the Gen AI model is a lot more valuable than trying to use Gen AI directly for like more of the lower level of cataloging and building lineage. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So right tool, right place, right time.
Yes. Yes.
And rather than starting with something like Gen AI, which to your point is expensive and inconsistent, right? Start with tools that are more common. Start with tools that are less expensive. Start with tools that are much more consistent, and kind of grow and evolve from there. Would be the big takeaway that I would take.
Yeah, this consistency side is the part that really bumps the quality of Gen AI results, is what we've seen. And I think that is like the main takeaway here for folks that wants to use Gen AI more and wants to understand how to leverage data catalog for Gen AI.
This has been excellent. I think there's a lot for people to kind of get here, to take here, and to learn and understand about the value and power of data catalogs. Shinji, this has been a fantastic conversation and really educational. I would say I wish I could continue this. I've got about 7,000 questions, but I don't want to overwhelm our audience. Where can people find you when they obviously have more questions at the end of this?
Sure. So we are on selectstar.com, and you can easily find our LinkedIn page or our Twitter handle, SelectStarHQ. And I'm also on LinkedIn, happy to connect with anyone that may have further questions on this. And happy to come back to the show and we can dive deeper into any of those 70,000 questions that you may have about this.
Oh, fantastic. Fantastic. Well, everyone, this has been another episode of Discovering Disruptions in Tech. Please like, share, subscribe, follow, comment, post, all of the things. And we'll see you on our next episode. Thank you.
Thanks, Howard.